Alright, so first things first. Let's assume that I've given you a time series data set. So that would be a set of evenly spaced observations of a variable that we're interested in trying to predict the future of. So it could be quarterly sales data. What do you want to do first? Well, I hope you learned something from units 1 and 2, which is you should first try to explore the data. So one of those ways of doing that is to plot the data, right, and try to discern patterns. And remember, once we plot it, we just say, does there look like there are any patterns? So the question now becomes, what type of plot do we create? Well, we better create a line plot. So remember, a line plot is a scatter plot that the markers, the little dots, are joined together by line segments. You should only ever use a line plot when the x-axis is ordered in some kind of particular informational order. So in our case, the x-axis will be the time period index. It'll be each of those time, if we had quarterly sales data, it'd be each quarter. So if we had 5 years of quarterly sales data, we'd have 20 data points. So the x-axis would go from 1 to 20. And then the y-axis would be the sales. And then we would connect the dots with lines to create a line plot. So once we plot it, I'll do a line plot. There are a couple things that we're interested in. There are 4 big components to time series for all time series. There's level. Every time series component contains a level. The other component that every time series contains is noise, which I do not have shown on this slide. All right, so level and noise are present in every single time series data set. A time series might also include a trend. Here I've shown an upward linear trend. So little t is the x-axis, right, for time. Time is going along in a forward fashion as we move out to the right. There are other types of trend besides linear. There's exponential, and then there's all kinds of other fun trends out there too. Quadratic, polynomial, all that good stuff. And then we have seasonality. Seasonality does not have to be present in a time series, but it can be. So that's the repeated up and down patterns that we see. So if each quarter has its own kind of distinction, so quarter 1's the lowest, quarter 2 somewhere in the middle, quarter 3 is the highest, quarter 4 is the somewhere in the middle or a little bit lower than one of the other ones, right? Each one might have its own kind of pattern. So some kind of repeated up and down patterns. So here are the different types of systematic patterns that we might see in different time series. So here we have a constant trend up in the upper left. That's the level part, all right? And it's non-seasonal. So we can't, yes, there's ups and downs, but that's the level and then the noise around it. Right? So we have the level and the noise around it. Next, off to the far right, we have constant trend with additive seasonality. So there appear to be peaks, right? Valley, peak, valley, peak, valley. But there's no discernible straight up, down kind of stuff. So it's just kind of nice and level. Down here we have level. We also have seasonality, peaks and valleys. But notice now that the peaks and valleys are getting farther apart from one another. So that's multiplicative seasonality. And you should read about that in a little more detail in the textbook. Then we might have upward linear trend, but again, we don't see any discernible repeating up and down patterns that would indicate seasonality. That's just the noise that's kind of around it. So we have just trend there, just an upward trend there, no seasonality. We could have upward trend with additive seasonality, so the peaks and valleys are about the same distance apart every time. Upward trend with multiplicative, where the peaks and valleys get bigger as we go out. We could have an upward exponential trend, right? And there's no seasonality there. Here's one with some seasonality where the peaks and valleys seem to be a little more distinguishable. Over here, this looks like noise to me. And then there's lots of other stuff. I didn't show any downward trends at all, right? Sometimes a downward trend is a good thing. If we're measuring cost, then a downward trend would be a good thing. Here it looks like everything was upward. So these are some of the ones we might see. We are going to try to stick to linear trends for the most part and different types of seasonality, right? It might be monthly, it might be quarterly, that kind of stuff. So those are different types of components that go to a time series. There are 4 components. 2 are always present, level and noise, and then we might see the other 2, which are trend and seasonality.